What's going on, fellas? Happy everybody's able to come together today and have a conversation about generational fatherhood. Typically, we don't really see these type of conversations being amplified, so I'm happy that everyone's here and we're able to talk about this. So thank you all for coming. I'm ready to talk about fatherhood journeys and what it looks like for each one of us, so let's go ahead and get it started. Who all grew up with their father in their lives? Show of hands. Okay, and we have one that did not. Okay. How was your relationship with your father, and how did that kind of impact you as a father?
My dad was completely present. In fact, I model a lot of my own fatherhood like experiences and the way that I deal with my kids on my dad. Now, my dad's not very talkative. Like, he didn't say a lot, but he was there for everything. If I needed something, in fact, my dad's like that now. He's one of them dads where if you say I need, before you finish the sentence, he's got the keys in his hand and he's already out the door. Like, what do we need to get? What do we need? And I've seen that I'm a lot like that, not even intentionally. It's just, I guess, how I view fatherhood, except because it's a different generation. I'm a lot more communicative with my kids now. Like, I talk a lot more and get their opinion a lot more. So I'm more talkative than my dad ever was, I think, with my kids.
Yeah, I grew up with my dad, and I would say my dad was he was in the military, he was in the Army, so he brought discipline to the house, and he was pretty firm, but yet he could be my friend at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde relationship. For me, I think it impacted me growing up in a way that initially when I dealt with problems, I always went to the other side as well because I saw that from him, the extreme discipline, my way or the highway kind of thing. And, we grew up, yes, sir, no, sir, very structured with how we handled adults. So I think as a father in the beginning, that was partly my style. The son came first and I was 19 when I became a dad. So at 19, you don't really know what you're doing as a dad. You're just a kid trying to raise another kid. And, but me and my dad had a real good relationship, man. And I have the same with my children.
That's dope.
Yeah, my experience is pretty similar. My dad was military also.
Mine too, by the way.
But our interaction was him being present, but because he was trying to lead with discipline, because he was trying to set a good example, because he was trying to get us out of some of the neighborhoods we were in, he literally worked around the clock. He had a graveyard shift at the post office, and then when he finished the post office shift, he'd sleep in my grandmom's house, and then he'd come, because I live with my grandma for most of the week, he'd sleep in my other grandma's house, and then he was trying to start his own business, so he was working most of the day doing that, and then he would start his graveyard shift again, so we only really saw him on the weekends. When I had my son and he saw me being present, being engaged, benefiting from some of the sacrifices he made, we had a chance to just talk a little bit. And he's hard-nosed, military dude, and I never really seen him like tear up. But he said, I realized, I was some of the seeds I was planting, I was sacrificing a little bit of our relationship so you had this kind of relationship with your son. And it just kind of hit me that 30, 40 years ago, that was the kind of seed he was planting, because he knew that all of the hard work and sacrifice would make it better for my brother and I to be the kind of parents that he wanted to be more engaged. So,
My dad was present 110% of the time, was there at every basketball game, every practice, everything. But emotionally, we didn't have that relationship. So with me now, like with me having my daughter, I take like full advantage of that. I'm full throttle. How are you feeling? What are you going through? Blah, blah, blah. And she's 4, but I'm still trying to get all of those emotions. That's the main thing that I kind of focus on, is making sure that I'm there for her emotionally on top of physically being present and just being like, as close to the perfect dad as I can be for her.
I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if any of you guys feel the same way, but like from a generational standpoint, it feels like my father's generation, their focus on fatherhood was more like on provision.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you got to get the basic needs met.
Provide and protect. Yeah.
But I think the transition I'm seeing is that there's that balance between like the provision and the relational pieces, because realizing that there's two sides to a person, not just the basic needs, but well, how does your daughter feel? How does your son feel? Those kind of things. And I don't know if that's just me, but that's kind of the thing that I've noticed.
Yeah.
I could definitely say as a girl dad,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I'm a girl dad
tough.
too.
It's tough because they have so many emotions in
Yeah.
them. I'm like, I don't understand. Why are you crying right now?
Yeah, and let me hop in here because you said something interesting. Like with the girls, it's all the emotions, but when they're little, they all emotions, right? They're balls of emotions. So that's been a big difference. So I have 3 boys and 1 girl. My daughter's the oldest. She's 14, 8, 7, and 2. The boys, that's been the biggest thing I've had to notice about myself. Like I'm so much more intentional, especially with my boys, in a way that feels, I ain't gonna say revolutionary, but just different. Like I just don't know that we all generationally grew up thinking about being intentional with your boys' feelings and their communication and who they're gonna be as men to their partners and the women that are gonna be having to deal with them, right? Like I can't stop my son from doing this because this is his natural emotion, and I need to figure out what's causing that so that he can do that same thing as they get older, you know, because I want to raise emotionally intelligent boys who go into the world. I mean, I don't want them crying at everything, but I want them to understand their own emotions so that they know how to deal with that, and they're not out here trying to fight everybody for no reason just because they don't know how to deal with that stuff.
The only other thing I would add to that is trying to balance that with my daughters too. Because for me, being a girl dad doesn't just mean let my daughter like emote and be like crying and that kind of stuff. Because I think it's also important for her to be able to channel that strength and emotion too. So I try to get her to process things, but also push through in some of the same ways that we were historically thinking about how men should be functioning.
Right.
I have her boxing. I have her doing some other stuff like, hey, if some dude acts crazy with you, you need to be able to do yada yada. Because I don't want her to just feel like the only thing she has to offer is this emotional piece.
Coach, this is a question for you. How did like the lack of your relationship with your father kind of impact you as a father?
It's a great question. I think the lack of relationship that I didn't have, it didn't make me go overboard with my relationship with my daughter, but it made me want to be present. It made me want to be accountable and responsible. And I think that was more important for kind of thinking through how I wanted that relationship to be. But just to show up every day for me has been the thing that I try to do, especially understanding that, you know, as a college basketball coach, where we spend anywhere between 12 to 14 hours a day maybe working, how do we kind of balance that active family, which is tough, but it's been a tremendous journey so far and I've enjoyed every bit of it.
Who were some of the like male adult figures that kind of helped you influence your fatherhood journey?
I had mentors in my community. I mentioned some might be recreation guys. I don't know everyone's age here, but I'm 51. And growing up in DC, they had, you know, the Police Boys and Girls Club. So I had police officers in my community and in other places around the city that were there when maybe they saw me in places that I shouldn't have been and be like, go home, man. But then there were, like I said, the street entrepreneurs in my neighborhood that were kind enough and gentle enough with me to say like, hey, look, there's some promise here with you. You know, we'll take care of you, but just, you don't need to be here. Go back on the basketball court. You have to try to find a mentor. And that's easier said than done. A lot of kids don't have the outsourced resources to go to a recreation department because I don't know if they exist as many as they did when I was growing up in DC or the Police Boys and Girls Club. So I think probably, you know, from this vantage point of trying to find mentors, trying to find big brothers, trying to find, you know, resources that young kids can take and develop those type of relationships with. I just see it very challenging today because I don't see those, maybe from my lens, I don't see those opportunities that are there.
Okay. So we can go ahead and start with the questions on the table to whoever wants to pick them up.
First,
All right. This question says, what were your feelings toward your father figure growing up? I view my father as both hero, example, model. Not perfect, but perfect for me, right? You know, the perfect in the way that I needed in order for me to be the version of myself that I am today, that I'm happy with, at least in fatherhood.
I got perseverance, I got determination, I got drive, I got motivation, I got a lot of things from my father that I needed. He gave me some really good tools to put in my toolkit. But I will say that doing some introspection on my own life, I've modified and kind of eradicated some of the challenging parts. And I've matured enough to kind of smooth that out and not take that on my journey any longer. But yeah, man, my dad was great. I'm blessed to have had him in my life. So
At times, I think I was a little angry growing up because there were times where I wanted him to be present in some of those basketball games, some of those moments, those kind of things. And because of his work schedule kind of flying in and flying out, he wasn't there. So I think at times there was a little bit of anger there. And I think I've come, even though he was always like a hero figure for me, I think I've come to appreciate just how much of a hero figure he was to me, because I'm looking at it with like 40 years
yeah,
of experience in the mirror and seeing how much he had to sacrifice.
I grew up with a lot of anger towards my dad too, especially in like my teenage years. And I think that was a result of obviously me being a teenager and thinking that I knew everything, but also just based off of like how my dad handled certain situations with me and like the relationship that we had. So it wasn't until I got into college and I got a little bit older and I was like, I'm still angry at you and I don't need to be. So I need to release whatever it is that's going on and just be able to fully accept, hey, this is you and you were doing the best that you can throughout that time. So it's much different now, and I still love my dad to death. And I had to let go of those things that I was mad about and be able to really appreciate the things that he was able to do for me. A lot of kids weren't able to say, "Hey, my dad showed up at every single game, every practice, everything." So now that I'm almost 30 next month, I'm able to appreciate him a lot more now.
Almost 30.
Almost 30, stressing out about that,
Damn.
You got to read the room, bro.
Right, right.
how did we let you in?
You know what's funny though? I mean, you know, it's just like I'm gonna have to call this man when I get out of here and be like, yo, you know what? I don't know that I appreciate you enough. You know, maybe I just got all the good lessons, so I'm just starting to feel like maybe I owe that man a little bit more than I've been given on the back end. You know?
Get that man his flowers.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm about to go do that as soon as I can get on the phone.
This is going to be interesting. Let's talk about the moment you found out your partner was pregnant. What were your feelings surrounding it based on your desire to be a dad at that time?
Ooh, I'll go first. I became a dad at 19, my freshman year of college. I fathered a son, and what was my first initial reaction was, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to play basketball. I can't finish pledging Kappa. Oh man, I gotta be a dad. I gotta get a job. I gotta make some money, and I gotta drop out of college. I had to go work at Safeway. I had to jump in the post office, find a full-time job, didn't pay my way through college. And at age 20, I went to court in Maryland and petitioned for custody of my son. And I represented myself. And I was awarded sole custody of my son at age 20. Then it was just game on, helmet, chin strap, him and I doing everything we had to do together. And, I worked nights so that I could be home with him. The expenses hit you fast too, because you don't know what you don't know. And all of a sudden now you got expenses, you got daycare, you got Similac, you got milk. Those tennis shoes you wanted, them Jordans came out, but you can't get them. And your friends is getting new cars and stuff, but you gotta sacrifice. So it started early for me, man. That's what I gotta say.
For me, the first emotion I felt was fear. I was absolutely petrified. I was 25 when my daughter was born, and I was in my second semester in grad school. And I was already it was a lot going on when I was in grad school. So to know that, I was about to be a father during that second semester, it was like, all right, I definitely have to finish school now. Like, I have to see that through. I have to make sure that I'm able to kind of provide that foundation for her financially to be able to provide for her. But at that time, I just wasn't ready. But I had to become ready very quickly
I was 27, I think. It didn't hit me until I actually seen her. I seen the stomach. I used to touch the stomach, all of that. But it didn't hit me until the baby was actually here. I actually threw up the day she came out. So it didn't hit me until she was born, and fell in love with her immediately. Immediately. It's like a feeling that you never knew even exist. You automatically love a person as soon as they are born. It's like, what the hell? I don't even know you yet. But I love the hell out of you. Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and go here. I've been bad and good at this. I have 4 kids, as I said. My daughters from my prior relationship, my 3 boys with my wife. And well, my daughter, I was 29 when we found out that my girlfriend at the time was pregnant with my daughter. And I remember it was probably fear, but also a little bit of, I'm an adult, I'm 29, I'm grown. I don't remember any anger or any upsetness or anything. I don't know that I felt joy immediately either, but I definitely felt like the joy comes when the kids get here. I mean, you know, you be excited and all that stuff. But I mean, who don't love your kid when you see him? It's like, man, look at little me, look at all that. But now my 3 kids, this is why I did everything wrong with my now wife. We done been through everything you can possibly go through, ups and downs and all that. I found out she was pregnant with my oldest son. Probably handled that as wrong as you can handle something. We weren't together at the time, too. Let me point this out. We weren't together. So circumstantially, the situation, it just felt like, wow, this is really, you know, in fact, I told her she was pregnant with our second son. Like, I felt it. I was like, I think you're pregnant. She took a test, found out she was pregnant, and we were just like, all right, well, you know, I think even she was a little bit scared of that one because that was like a year after my son was born. I think the only one I probably handled completely right was the baby. The latest addition to my clan. We were married. This was a thing. We're in this for the long haul. Like she says all the time, you ain't going nowhere. You know that, right? But yeah, I probably owe my wife some apologies for how bad I was. I have apologized actually. I have. But she'll be really happy to see this in a public forum. For me, actually, like I sucked at that, and yeah, don't be me in that case.
Ours was a journey. You know, I think we started trying to have kids. My wife was probably 42. I'm 43. And we had to take the route of IVF. Mm-hmm. And that in itself was a whole process of everything that you have to do. I had to inject my wife every day with shots in her belly. And that was really uncomfortable for me. You know, growing up, I've always had like a fear of needles. So to actually inject someone else with something that I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong was a scary responsibility for me. And so we had 2 IVFs, both failed. And after that, we kind of relaxed and let our hair down and both started drinking wine and hanging out and, you know, being our normal selves, getting to our normal lives, because when you're going through that process, they want you to try to be as clean as possible. She and I are both like just kind of enjoying life, and all of a sudden she comes home one day and goes, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Every day there was a nervousness about me that, you know, she would call me during the day just to say hi. I'm like, what's wrong?
Yeah, same
like,
here.
You okay? Yeah. Like, how you feel? You know, so I was on pins and needles for 9 months.
And my daughter was IVF. We had to start that process too.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Yep,
it's not
easy.
Fun.
No.
Do you feel that you're parenting your child differently from how you were raised? If so, how?
I think we've all kind of said it. In that sort of generation, everything was kind of, you know, not militant, but it was really, there was a focus on discipline. Where it's like, if I say it,
Yep.
you do it. Right?
And you can't say
And you
nothing
can't
back.
say nothing back. Or you get that down south, you know, attitude adjustment, right? So that was the way that I was raised. And you sit, you know, you're in class and everything is, you know, there's a certain way you're supposed to do things, yada, yada, yada. My approach to raising my kids is a little bit different. We still focus on discipline, but we really try to encourage them to challenge some of the things that are being presented to them. So if somebody tells you to do something, why did they ask you to do that? And we're not telling you to be like rebels or crazy or breaking rules and stuff, but at the same time, we want you to be able to process stuff differently.
What has been one of the most challenging parts of parenting that you were not expecting? Ooh, funny, I would get this question. It's how angry I would be at myself for handling situations wrong. I get so mad at myself when I get mad at my kids for stuff that they didn't do wrong. But what it's taught me is how to apologize. As soon as I see I did it wrong, I'm sorry. Especially when I see my kids crying. I would get this emotional question from you. This is crazy. Like, I'm over about to cry.
Hold on, I got something for that.
Yeah, see, now
I got
I'm the one
something
that
for
needs a tissue. Like, so on occasion, like, I'll just like get down to where face to face. I want, like, I'm just so you, I need you to see me. Like, I see you. You are me. I love you. This is not your fault. That's been challenging, like being wrong and having to fix it.
Use that tissue, bro. It's okay. What are your main sources of support advice when it comes to fathering?
Let me take some notes, man.
I was gonna say.
I gotta get some of this.
No, right?
My wife is the one who can help me with how to teach your child to do right or how to parent. I think we do it together well. Me communicating with her, she tells me what I'm doing wrong, and I'd be like, damn, I ain't even think about that. But recently, this was I want to say this is about 2 weeks ago. She said, you need to be more compassionate with your kids. I'm like, damn. How? I don't get it. She's crying for nothing. I don't understand what she's going through. And I just I would probably just like brush it off. Like, okay, whatever. Her head hurt. Okay, yeah, that's fine. She be all right. I rely on my wife for a lot of things. She makes me being a dad 10 times easier.
What advice would you give, like, because you have a girl, right?
2, 14 and 9.
Okay. What advice would you give, like, a father that has girls that are trying to raise their girls? Like, what's the best advice you would give them?
To be patient and listen.
Mm.
Because I always say if that was a boy, I would have just gave him a quick body shot or something like that.
Quick punch to the chest.
Yeah. But you can't do that with a girl.
How has parenting been healing for you? I got 38-year-old going on 39, and I got a 29 going on 30, and I got 4 grandkids. So parenting in the healing part has been an evolution for me. One, I started so early in my journey that now that I've got grown children, the healing has been both learning some empathy, learning patience, learning how to control my anger outbursts and minimize them. And as an adult with adult children now, you get to healing from them because their ability to articulate and communicate back to me and give me introspection or provide me feedback on my own behavior is wonderful. It's something that you just, until you get there, you won't know. But when you start looking at your legacy and your lineage and you hear them processing information back to you and providing you feedback, it just, your heart, man, it just overflows because you know you've done your job. Yeah, man, I need that tissue.
I was about to say, I hear a little choked up over there.
I don't know, I wanted to do things different, but in hindsight, it's too late. So all you can do is move forward. But my kids are great, man, and they make me more well-rounded. I don't want to be here without my kids. I would have never thought that my kids would drive me in my profession, motivate me mentally, spiritually. But they're everything, man. They're the glue. All right, y'all. Too much. Too much. Too much. All right. Help me out, coach. No, help me out, man. Let's change help me out.
I was about to say, y'all might as well just pass that tissue. Whoever got the card
Help
just
me
got the
out.
tissue.
What do you wish you knew before becoming a father? I think I had the cheat code a little bit. Going into fatherhood, I really felt just kind of, as a coach, you see a lot of different emotions through practicing in games, right? You have great emotions, you have angry emotions, you may have shocked emotions, whatever those things are that you go through during a 40-minute game. I think for me, it really helped prepare me for fatherhood, along with being mentors for the last, 20 plus years before, our daughter Naomi was born. So I really feel like, I was ready and I was prepared. And I was old having a kid. So it wasn't, my life experiences that kind of put me in place for, I think, trying to be able to do that.
Where have you found joy in parenting? My wife and I were told that we weren't going to be able to have kids, and it wouldn't be, if we did, wouldn't be an easy process. And by the grace of God, we have a 17-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, but we lost four kids in between. It was a challenging process. So to have the two that we have, I count every day as a blessing. Every aspect of being a parent for me there's a joy. Even I get frustrated with some of the things that have been shared earlier from when they're not doing what you're supposed to do, you want them to do, or when you're a little bit harsh on them. There's still joy in the fact that they're still here for me to have those even mistakes with. So I count it all joy. The added bonus for my son is that when he was 7 years old, he was diagnosed with a rare disease. And the prognosis that we had from the doctor was that by the time he was 12, he would either, best case scenario, or worst case scenario is he wouldn't be here because the disease would have progressed so much that we would have lost him. And worst case scenario, he would be wheelchair bound. So that should have happened by the time he was 12 or 13. He's 17, as I mentioned now, and he ran cross country, he ran track, he played for a competitive baseball team. He's here, he's considered to be in remission for his disease. So when I'm either coaching or in the sound booth doing the music for his team, it's just a remembrance, a reminder of the blessings that it is to be here, to see him, to have that joyful experience, to see him do his thing. So all of it is joy. To see them learning and growing to be good people. I'm admittedly biased, but to see them be good people.
I didn't read my question yet, but y'all can go ahead and pass these tissues over.
And you held it together. I was about to say, I was like,
Yeah.
when I saw it coming, I'm like, ain't no way.
I was trying.
I was about to reach for the box, but I said, nah, you good.
Whew. What is a legacy you hope to leave with your children, and how do you practice this each day? So making sure that I'm able to mold my daughter into this wonderful, emotionally intelligent human being who is prepared for the world, who's prepared for anything that comes along professionally. And, eventually when she starts dating and 30, 35, around that age, then to kind of have her get prepared for that too. But no, man, just trying to be the best father that I can be and the best father for her. Just moving forward, that's a legacy that I want to leave. How you talk about your dad is exactly how I want my daughter to talk about me. That love and that compassion, and I want her to just be able to smile every time that she talks about me. So can't talk too much about my daughter, otherwise I'm gonna start tearing up. But yeah, that's a part of the legacy that I'm gonna leave for my daughter. To be able to have this conversation with, men who have been through my shoes before and they've experienced some of the same things that I have, and to know that, okay, well, he made the exact same mistake I did. So I'm okay. It's not that big of a deal. I'm okay. I have that grace, like you said. And to be able to offer that vulnerability piece to it is super important as well. So,
It's just always good, on a non-as personal level, just to hear everybody's journey and story. We always say everybody has a story, but you never know what you can learn from people's stories and what people have been through, and how it might not hit you today, but maybe it'll hit you a week later. Somebody says something that you're like, you know what? That's how I feel right now about it. So I'm just appreciative of being in spaces with people who are willing to be open about the journeys that they're on.
I just love that we're dads and we're doing this. We're doing it, right? That's pretty much it. I would love to have conversations like this all the time.
Well, for me, it was kind of game changing for me to hear kind of all the different perspectives, because naturally it makes you do some introspective. You got to look in yourself a little bit and see where you can maybe modify your own behavior based on a lesson learned from someone else. So for that, I think that the chat was outstanding, positive men doing the right thing. We're all vested in raising our children. It's obvious we care about them. We got different relationships with dads or without a dad.
No, this was unbelievable. First time I've ever had an opportunity to have this type of dialogue and conversation with, 5 other black men. And everybody was so, I think, vulnerable, articulate, and very thoughtful throughout this whole conversation. I learned a whole lot. And this opportunity is going to make me a better husband. It's going to make me a better dad. It's going to make me a better basketball coach, better mentor, hopefully a better leader.
These kind of conversations are good reminders to me of how important our role is and how these seeds that we're planting even with our fathers are bearing fruit, 2 or 3 generations down the line. Men, black men in general, because of the societal stigma around being tough and knowing and having answers and not being able to be vulnerable when you have a challenge, is something I think we need to do more about addressing and creating these spaces so we can start sharing, having real conversations, finding accountability circles, finding resources of people who have shared experiences to start to have these opportunities to lift each other up and let people know you're not the only one dealing with these things. And there's some things I've learned, good or bad, that I can share with you.
Appreciate all of you guys. It was a pleasure meeting everybody.
My man.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Mike's off.